Well, here we are with Dr. Fred Heros. Dr. Heros is originally from Cuba, moved to the States when he was 9 years old. The medical community of Memphis brought his family to the area, and he's been here serving the city ever since. Dr. Heros attended Memphis State University and the University of Tennessee Health Science Center for dental school, graduating in 1975. He spent his career in private practice and as a volunteer with the Church Health Center, Bellevue Mobile Unit, and Mid-South Mission of Mercy. He's the former president of the Memphis Dental Society and the Tennessee Dental Association, and the recipient of the Jack Wells Memorial Dedication to Dentistry and the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Service Awards. He's been inducted into the International College of Dentists and the Pierre Fauchard Academy. Dr. Heros and his wife have 3 daughters and several grandchildren. And in his free time, Dr. Heros is a racquetball enthusiast and has previously been ranked number 1 in the nation in his age group. So, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here.
I'm enjoying this.
Number 1.
Well, yeah, it was, I don't know how long I was up there, but I won 1 year, I won the U.S. Open. And ended up, I think I played 4 years, and the other 3 years were second, third, and fourth. I stayed in the top. And so I just love racquetball. It's my game. It's in my blood. And so we had a lot of good friends that were very competitive. Even my family doctor, my good friend Bill Weiss and Danny Weiss, obviously. We all played racquetball and just really enjoyed it. Great game.
So the U.S. Open, like you would travel, you were in a league playing.
Well, the U.S. Open used to be played in Memphis. I could have, but no, I stayed here because it was played here, so it was great. Hometown convenience. We played at the Rack Club, which is my club, and so it just worked out. And then I won the Pro-Am 1 year with, it wasn't me that was playing hard. I was teamed up with the number 1 player in the world, Kane Weselinchuk. So I had a lot of good teachers, just good friends.
Well, let's start with the background, because your bio is very interesting to me. It is like, it's craziness. So your family came from Cuba, and your dad was a physician.
Yes, he was a pediatrician. Yes.
And is that how he was a pediatrician before he got here? Is that how you got here, or how did that work coming over?
Well, it's a long story, and I'll try to bore you with it a little bit. We kind of, Dad had an idea back when Castro first took over in Cuba, we left in 59, so it may have been like 57 and all that. And Dad kind of had an idea where Cuba was going. And so we used the fact that he was coming to a medical meeting to get the family out. Of course, even at that time, we had $5 in Dad's pocket. They didn't let him take any money because they knew what he was going to do, obviously. But we had to leave everything behind. No jewelry, no nothing. I mean, we just came in and had no idea what the next day would be like, just because, again, we didn't have anything. We didn't have any money. Luckily, my dad had a brother here who was also a physician living in Miami. And he says, come to Miami and we'll work things out. And so that's, Dad did anything, finding a job, pumping gas, doing whatever to, support us. And then we ended up going to Nassau, and he practiced here for 2 years because he could use his Cuban license to practice. So he practiced here at a hospital called the Princess Margaret Hospital. And that's when he actually studied English. There was also some friends of his already in Nassau because they knew that they could do the same thing. They were Cuban physicians. And every night they would study English. They would study for the boards to pass the foreign medical board and all that. And it just worked out great. It was 2 years that, as being a little kid, it was a lot of fun for me because Nassau is a beautiful place. So we had a lot of fun.
I mean, that's truly amazing. Yeah. So, was he sponsored from his family, or how do you get over here? You just can't say I'm showing up, right?
Well, obviously, they keep everything you have. They know if you're leaving that And so they took my house and everything we had. We couldn't take anything with us, no jewelry, no nothing, because they would search you. And again, I was just 9 years old, so it was kind of strange to me. But Dad said, "Don't worry, we're just going to a medical convention." Well, we didn't know any better, you know. And so when we got here, you know, I told that story many times to different people, different groups. It was like, that's it. But we did it the right way. We you know, the 5 years later, we've got our citizenship and all that, which is the way it used to be. And so that's it. I became Americanized instantly.
How long did it take you to get your citizenship?
Citizenship was 5 years. 5 years then. So you came in, you applied, and whatever, you know, and then at the end they gave you some kind of a exam. Of course, we were too young for that, but with Dad they did. But that's called paying your dues.
You must be so proud.
Well, you know, I just look at the situation now with the border open and all that, and you know, that's just not the way it should be. You know, and I'm all for people coming in here to advance their skills and do whatever they do, and but do it the right way. You know, do it the right way. Just coming in here and jumping a fence and all that, it's not right. That's not the way it was done, and it shouldn't be.
Right. I mean, your dad worked so hard
He did.
to make everything happen.
He really did. He really, just like any dad would do it, you know, always taking care of his family. But even when he couldn't practice, I remember him, you know, pumping gas. I mean, and so it had to be hard for him. But hey, we made a living. You know, we didn't eat great food. We ate whatever we could, and sometimes we skipped meals because we didn't have money. But you know, Dad was just proud to do that, and eventually, you know, he's still my idol. You know, just did it right. Did it the right way.
And so then 2 years in the Bahamas, and then he came over and practiced as a pediatrician here in Memphis.
He never, you know, he never did go practice at as a pediatrician. I don't remember. I don't think he passed his pediatric board. He passed the foreign board, and then came up here to work at Arlington Hospital with the children with developmental problems and all that. At that time, it's no longer there, but at that time, he did more like child psychiatry.
Wow.
And so eventually he loved it working with these kids, and so, you know, that's what he did. He worked at Arlington for a long time.
So at what point, how old were you when you moved to Memphis?
To Memphis, we went to a couple of other places where Dad could get, we stopped by Virginia for a few months at a place called Nassawadox, and then Dad went to Bolivar for a couple of years and practiced there as a physician for the older folks there. And then we came to Memphis. So probably when I came to Memphis, I was probably around 13, 14, somewhere around there.
And where'd you go to high school?
I went to Catholic High in Memphis State.
Yeah. And then did you know you wanted to go into dentistry? Or were you thinking medicine, or your dad was like, you're going to dentist school? Like, how did that come about?
You know, it's kind of a funny story because I still tell it all the time. You know, I told Dad, and it's in my bio wherever, and I've talked to people. Dad was just one of these guys that even as a kid, I remember being a pediatrician back years ago was a job. I mean, they would call you 5, 6, 7 times a night if the kid coughed, if the kid did, because everybody really, you know, wants their kid well. And so I said, Dad, I just can't do that. And he said, well, if you're not, you can do this, you can do. And then eventually I went to work in a hospital. I went to work at Methodist Hospital in the emergency room, and there was a couple of guys going to dental school, and they just kind of guided me. He said, look, okay, you don't like the hours. We got great hours. Go into dentistry. And I said, man, I don't know if he said, look, go into dentistry, you pick your hours, you do. And here I am, 50 years later, you know, I'm still here. And I just, again, with Dad, it was just, that was a passion for him. But working all hours of the night is not a passion for me, so.
Same.
So,
Yeah, I get that.
Well, now it's everybody's practicing in groups and all that, and but that's not the way it used to be. In Cuba, you were by yourself. I mean, that's basically it. And here, years ago, practice was the same way. Pediatrician, very few group practices. Most of them practice, you know, solo.
Yeah.
So
And then your dental school, was it, you got in right away and it was no real issues? And then how was dental school for you as a student? Because I know you've seen it from all angles.
I've seen it all. It was tough, and I'll be honest with you. And now I'm in charge of fundraising for the school, but it was tough. And so going back to the years I was in dental school, they really didn't treat you real nice in dental school. Now you're in like Flint. They treat you like you ought to be treated like a human being. To give you an example, I came in one day and I had been in the army, and so I came in wearing a handlebar mustache, and so I get called in to see Doctor Andrews, and there was like 30 or 40 of us, and I couldn't. I mean, I'm bald. I didn't. And he says, "Yeah, yeah, mustache looks good," but he said, "I just want it off. You got plenty of time by tomorrow." And I said, "Oh, this is going to be a long, long." And so that's the way it was, And so you don't have a lot of sympathy from the older folks. The younger folks, and I've been there. I know what the culture is like. It's much nicer. They treat you the way you ought to be treated. A human being ought to be treated. It's so I hate to say that, but that's just the way it was. It was not easy.
Did you handle that okay? I mean, you seem
Yeah.
to be able to handle a lot of stuff thrown at you. Did you find it almost funny in a way, or
It,
did you?
it was. It was. And of course, the first thing I was associate chairman, so we had parties all the time. And so that on Fridays it was a good day, after the week. So we just had a good group. We were the first term class, and we had a new dean, so everything changed. Everything changed, and even the culture. I'm going to give you an example of something that I'll never forget. We were next to I'm saying not my class, the class before us, next to last in taking national boards. So Dean Wells came in and said, I'm going to change the culture. Instead of having essay questions like on how many ATPs are here, AD, all that stuff, and fill it all out, we're going to have questions based on national board questions. And so he said, so go back and get all the national boards you can, because they're going to come out of there. So I thought, well, this is fantastic. We'll do this. We'll help Jack, and just a great dean, a student's dean is what I called him. And so we go to physiology, and first thing we do, here we go. It's fill in the blanks. So I said, I guess they just told me that. He just said that to a class to make us feel better. And I said, it's the same stuff all over again. About 10 minutes into the test, the doors open. Dr. Wells comes in and he said, ladies and gentlemen, hand your test back in. So he goes to the front. I'm not going to tell you the guy that it was because his son's a dentist. But anyway, basically he said, Dr. So-and-so, here are the tests. You remember we talked about my students, I want all multiple choice based on national board. That is not in that format, so we're going to let them go. And everybody left the class, and we said, okay, maybe he is going to. And that's the way he was. And from then on, it was exactly what they told us. There was a few bad apples, but not many. It got to be pretty good. We felt good about it because he didn't lie to us.
Graduated, that was the quarter system, or was that?
No. We were the first term class, so we were 6 month
Gotcha.
class. Yeah. So it was in 3 years. 3 years all year round. So it was nice.
Were you married at that time?
I was married. Yeah. I had my first one. My first my first year in dental school. So great. 3 great girls.
So then we get out of dental school. And now what?
Well, you know, I actually I taught. I was telling Lynn I taught in pedo for a couple of years and thought I wanted to specialize. And as you would know it, by the time it came to me, they cut the program out, which was a 4-year program, but you have to work. You know, they let you work and make a little money, which would have been great because you know, like you, like me, you know, we all had student debt, and so, but they cut it out, and so I started finding out what instructors were making, including the chairman of the department, and I went, I can't even pay my student loan with what you're making, you know. And so I knew I had to do something. And so I went to Millington, worked at school for a couple of years, and then went into private practice with Dr. Lloyd Reed in Millington. His son is a dentist out there, and I took over the practice, Kevin Reed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was a great experience. He taught me a lot about everything, and a great human being. And so I learned a lot of good things.
And how long were you there?
I was there for 2-3 years while I built my office in Raleigh. I knew eventually I had to get out of Millington just because the sheer distance for me was and so and he was okay with that. He was, you know, I helped him see emergencies and all that. So that's where I built my office in Covington Pike, and I've been there ever since. So I love it.
So when you were there for 2 or 3 years and then opened your own practice?
Yes.
And it was just you for...
Just me. Just me. You know, again, I had 4 operatories, and, you know, I tell students, and they don't believe it, but that's, you know, they come in and say, well, you got a busy practice. I've got 2 hygienists, but I've got a small office. And I said, let me take you back, you know, 40 years ago. And I said, the interest rate when I built my office was 21%. Plus 2 if you were commercial, 23%. That's what I could afford. I mean, I couldn't. And eventually, I had somebody come out and see what we could do, and it was going to cost me more than I paid for my original office to expand it and take half my parking lot, and I just didn't do it. But I've still got, you know, 1 guy, 4 operatories, and 2 hygienists. It works out great for me.
And you've had associates come.
I've had associates. Yeah, I've had several, including my latest one was Jason Glick.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great guy, great kid. Unfortunately for him, he got in that Zoom, you know, system or whatever, and didn't do much for a year behind a computer. And so, but he learned quick, and he's a great practitioner. So I love Jason.
You know, I didn't think about that dental school class.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And were you in residency?
I started my residency in June of 2020. So kind of right in the middle of COVID. We were lucky that with it being kind of the hospital-based component of pediatric dentistry and being on call, they were able to amend the program to kind of accommodate what we needed. So we didn't have much Zoom residency, but I know the dental school, it was...
It's tough. It's tough. And so, you know, I mean, the only way you can learn, you know, you can do a lot of things on a computer, but you got to be in a dental chair in front of a patient to really... And so they did as good as they could. He's going to be a great practitioner. He is already, but... just need that experience of working with patients, and unfortunately, it just couldn't be done.
And your other associates, did they come and open in Memphis, or they leave town? Did they stay a year or 2, 3?
No, I had my first one that I had was, and that's really right out of school, a guy named Jimmy Holloway, who was a great dentist, and he had a PhD in pharmacy. And so I didn't understand it because he was a little bit older, but when he came, but it was good for me because I learned a heck of a lot of not only dentistry, but about drugs. And but he just said, you know, he went into pharmacy and decided it just wasn't for him. And so he came and spent 4 or 5 years with me, and then moved to Chattanooga because his family, or his wife's family, is from Chattanooga. So, and I had several others. You know, one, her husband, well, you know, Hillary.
Bear? No.
Bear. Yeah. And, you know, her husband was an ENT, and they moved to somewhere up north. And so I've had several. Another one was Brett Dagan, who just graduated from Endo School. And great. You know, I used to treat him as little kids in Millington. So, and doing a great job. I mean, he really is. He's a phenomenal. You knew this kid was going to be an endodontist because he loved. I mean, I just gave him all the endo I had, and he just loved doing it. You know, learn to do it the right way, the wave and all that. And of course, I don't know what he's doing now, but I sent him a lot of patience. But so I've learned a lot from all those kids that I've had. So.
Well, you're like Nick Saban, right? Because you have your coaching tree underneath you. You have your dentist tree.
Absolutely. Just as long as they don't cross me. No. I've just been lucky that I've had great people to work for me.
Now, I'm going to back up just a hair. Did you have siblings that followed in medical dental route, or siblings that came with you? And
no, I don't. Well, my daughter, yes. My daughter is my office manager, actually. And Christy is an OB nurse. And so she had to get out because of her back, you know. And I hate to go back and say the same thing, but I said, you know, her first words to me, Dad, nursing is not what it used to be, you know. Whereas they had assistants to pick up people out of the bedpan, they had assistants to do that. A nurse does it all now. A nurse is kind of like, you know, takes care of the patient and is a maid at the same time. And so she hurt her back, and she said, I can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. So now that Dad is retired, she got her master's in nursing administration. So she's working as teaching nurses at Baptist. And she loves it. That's the first time she's ever done that, and she loves doing it, loves teaching. So that's good. Because she was my office manager for 20-something years.
Wow.
And now I'm going to be lost, so I need to get out.
What family did you come over from Cuba with? Like from your parents and you?
Yeah. Well, there was a little story that I didn't tell, and that's because
you don't have to tell anything.
No. But my older brother, who's always, kind of the big kid in the block, he was a big kid in Cuba, played football for a club, and he was just a big guy. Well, so what does he do? He gets, when we're in Cuba, he gets into a fight with one of Castro's militiamen, beat him up pretty bad. So immediately we knew we had to get him out. And so we took him, or Dad did, to the American Embassy, and we got him shipped to England. And there he was by himself, didn't know anybody or anything. And so eventually he came back, and then he went back to Cuba and invaded Cuba with a group of people a couple of years after Castro came in. It's called the Bay of Pigs invasion. Unfortunately, they weren't successful, and so basically they put these 1,200 guys in jail for a couple of years, and then eventually they came back to the U.S. and were ransomed by the U.S. government. So what does this guy do? This guy eventually says, I want to go to medical school. And Dad says, come on. He said, Dad, I want to go to medical school. So what does he do? He gets out, goes to medical school, graduates first in his class from the medical units, goes to Harvard, which was almost impossible, does neurosurgery, and eventually he went 2 or 3 places, and he went to Miami and became the head of neurosurgery department there at Jackson Memorial Hospital. And he's kind of like my dad. He's kind of my hero because he's told the story many times. He's come and spoken to the students in graduation and all that, and tells everybody, you don't want to do what I did. But I did get the awards. He got several awards from medical school, and then went to eventually settled in Miami, and he's there now, and incredible guy. He's written many books and all that, so his name is Roberto Heros, and he is quite a Not quite as much as no. I'm just kidding. He's got big articles and all that. So that's what that's and actually my uncle who was here in Memphis who brought the whole family here. I don't know if you know the Bland Cannon family, John Cannon, his
Sure.
family. They brought him here, so he was the one that got everybody to come to Memphis, and he was
Really?
a neurosurgeon in Cuba, and very famous neurosurgeon. So he came and practiced with a Bland Cannon.
This is your uncle, you said?
My uncle, Uncle George practiced, and that's who really got the family coming to Memphis, because he said, hey, Bertie, talking to my dad, you need to come here. We're not going back to Cuba, so let's get the family here, and we'll live near each other, and so that's where it started to come into Memphis, because it was a big medical center. So, yeah, amazing.
Really
lucky.
is.
It's a smart family.
No,
I mean,
just lucky. We just got lucky.
sometimes you put yourself in the best positions to get lucky.
Well, you're right. You're right.
Right.
And I'll
Opportunity
agree-
plus
I'll
hard
agree with
work equals
opportunity.
luck, right?
Yeah.
You know what they say.
It's your brother that was in Miami. Is that right?
Still in Miami, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing.
So what does he do? He not only graduates and gets in there and heads a department, but so he retires back 2-3 years ago, and now he's chief medical officer, which he said was more work than I was doing as a neurosurgeon because of the paperwork and all that. So I think this time we just took a trip together to the Caribbean, and he said, the paperwork is killing me. I can't do that stuff. So he's going to retire for good probably in the next 6 months.
So you're in a private practice. You're by yourself with maybe some associates.
Yeah.
And I always speak of being on a dental island. Like when I was alone,
Absolutely.
I was like, I'm on my dental island. What's the definition, or how did your dental island treat you?
Well, it's tough because when you're in private practice and you're by yourself, you really don't have a lot of friends. You got to do it all yourself, and so you learn quickly to do things. And but being in an island, I think of it. It's wonderful, but that's really what we are. So in other professions, you can do things and all. In dentistry, you got to do it all. So it's I don't know if I answered the question kind of, but we're all in our own island. I mean, that's just the way it is. And so,
But I guess you got into organized dentistry and
Yes.
and things
Yeah.
like that, so that you could be out in the community,
Right.
and do the things that you love to do, because
Right.
you're obviously very social,
yeah,
and you like to be around people,
yeah.
and talk. So is that just a natural thing that came from you, or did you say, I need to get off this island and I have to do something different?
I see. Yeah, I see where you're going to. I made it a point where I try to always be active doing something, whether it's volunteering for whatever reason. But, to me, I got to a point where I was comfortable with what I was doing in my office, but I wasn't out in the community. And so that's where it started. So I did several things, but I spaced them apart because I knew that each one was going to take a lot of time. For example, I became president of the Racket Club. Well, that took a lot of time because we had a lot of things going. At the time that Billy Donovan owned the club, we were in a growing stage, so we had to. So I did that. Then I went out and what I do, I'm become president of the Liberty Bowl. So now the Liberty Bowl means a lot to me because, again, it's about liberty, and that's what we were all about. So, but I had a lot of fun doing that, got on the board of directors, and eventually became president of the Liberty Bowl. And that was a lot of fun. I did the church thing, where president of the men's club. So I knew I had to expand, but I didn't want to pack myself with doing too many things at one time. And so that's what I did. I just took on different things, and just enjoyed doing them all because I gave it time. So
Can you learn anything from that, Doc?
What'd you do as president of the Liberty Bowl?
well, that was tough. That was a lot of work. That was I was on the board, and so the Liberty Bowl was kind of like really in my heart. I loved it, and it's just number one. You have to go out and talk to a lot of groups, especially right before the Liberty Bowl. You have you got weekly meetings at Kiwanis, wherever the chamber, and so that was a lot of work. And when I got connected with the Liberty Bowl is I played racquetball. He really wasn't that good, but I played racquetball with Steve Earhart, and Steve said, "Fred, we need you, okay? Because you're a likable guy. You're this and that. You want with your background with Cuba and all this. This is what we're looking for. Would you do that for me?" And how can you say no? So I did, but that was a lot of time. It took a lot of work, a lot of flying to the Mountain West at that time. We were associated with the Mountain West, and so it took time. It took time out of my work and all that, but I got to the point where I could afford to do that and be okay. But it took a lot of time. Liberty Bowl probably took more time than I'd say the president of the state. That was another story. But I just balanced my time, and I did, and I would do the same thing over again if I had to do it.
It's amazing because you went out and got involved with these things that you were passionate about, but you didn't just get involved. You ended up being the president of all these things. It's amazing.
You get lucky. You being at the right place at the right time, and so being president of the state was another one. I didn't think it was going to take that much time. I knew it was going to be time because we had to go talk to all the districts and all that. But unfortunately, it came during my time. We were building a building in Cool Springs, and that was like I'd get called in the morning, "Fred, I got to have you here this afternoon." I said, "Dave, thank you for giving me that much time. I got plenty of time," because I had to do this for the building, sign for the building, and eventually it all worked out great. We got a beautiful building in Cool Springs, and 3-story building, and we're actually on the top floor and renting the other 2 floors, so it's paying the note. And now, when we first started with that idea, it was like, "And you're going to take dues money to pay for the building?" Yeah. We're in a building that's 30-something years old, right by the old building we used to have, right by Vanderbilt. And we knew we could sell it and make a good profit, so we would take that and put it into the new building. Now, that's the best thing we've ever done because it's fixing to be paid off, and here we go. We've got a $3, $4, $5 million building there that we don't have a note to pay. So but it took time. If you don't have time, don't do it.
That's a tough balance.
Yeah, balance your life.
And then you still had time for your family too. And then y'all have a really tight.
We're a great family. We've always had that. My girls I wouldn't take anything for them. Well, I say that no, they were great. I love my girls and still do. I talk to them every day, all 3 of them. So, they're what keeps me together, and my wife, obviously.
Throughout the course of being in charge of all of these things, have you noticed a lot of, I know that the times have changed and people have changed and things like that. At that level, are things have always been the same? We just didn't know about it first, or is it really, really changing?
No, it's all changing. It's all changing. It's, well, I mean, I say changing, in a way. I mean, you're used to doing something, and then all of a sudden, you get a little bit older, and you start looking back, and you say, "How did I do that?" And I just found time to do it. But it changes. It's not the same. Mm-hmm. I go back and again, I'm reverting to my childhood. We have not. I'm skipping around. we have not been able to go back to Cuba. So I'm not really sure I want to see that. You know, I grew up, was 9 years old. I left. We were on top of the world. Dad was doing great, and now, you know, the Cuba that I knew back. You know, you go back and you go, oh no, no, let me get out of here. Let me go back to the U.S. And so I see a lot of things like this. You know, but it's just me.
How you practice dentistry, how you run your practice, how has that changed over the years?
You know, I've taken a lot of practice management. I've tried to adapt myself to that. You know, I've changed. You know, obviously, and my girls that work for me would tell you, you know, that I'm always the same guy, but I know I'm really not. Uh, you know, I don't know how to describe it. It's just, it's a different feeling. You get a little bit older, you get a little bit more comfortable. Probably when I was younger, I was a little bit more hyper and wanted. Now I'm just, hey, I'm relaxed. Patient didn't show up. It's okay. It's okay. We got the next patient. So I get a half an hour break, you know, that type of thing. But, you know, I've attended a lot of things. I keep up with technology. You know, we have all the latest gadgets, the scanner, all that. So I tend to stay up with time, and that's the main thing. If you're not staying up with time, time changes every day. So does equipment. So, you know, things that I used to do a certain way, it's totally different. So you just got to adapt. And part of that is, you know, stay, you know, just equipped with the best equipment you can get, and make it a part of your everyday routine. But
So you keep talking about the girls at work. Do you have some people who have worked with you for years and years?
I've had up until lately, because I had one that had been with me 20-something years, and her mother had dementia, so she had to move. And but like, you know, my hygienist has been with me probably 25, 30 years. My daughter's been with me that long. The other is, I've got two new ones because I had to replace him. But no, they stay with me. Yeah, I'm not a mean guy. I give them good benefits and all that, and we're always out on time. I don't try to take their time and you know, stay late and stuff like that. So I've always been pretty well. Why? Because I want to get out of there. You know, early.
You have things to do.
I have things to do. So
It's just so interesting to hear people's stories.
yeah. I envy your job, kind of. That's pretty cool. Going and doing this with different individuals, you learn a lot.
So our podcast is called CYO, Create Your Own Dental Conference.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just to do kind of a basic outline of things. So we do have a questionnaire, and I'll let Dr. Lydia handle the first couple of questions.
Okay. So it's just like we're planning your ideal
Yeah.
dental CE conference. So if you could choose anywhere to have your CE conference, where would it be?
There's no doubt in my mind now, with the new dental school, there's nothing like it in the world. Is that what you're saying? Maybe somewhere like that, or are you talking about going out? Like
That was from the head of fundraising at the University of
Yeah,
Tennessee.
yeah.
You can. Is there a website we can give to?
You know, it really is. I mean,
It's amazing.
It's amazing what they've done there in all the
amazing.
departments. And actually, what turned out to be the ugliest building on Union is now probably where they just got an award. The best new building to come up, and they just got it. You know, last week they showed us the award they got from the architects. So obviously, somebody did a good job. You know, you remember the dental school you went to, where I don't know who the architect was, but he had to have been brain dead, putting the windows on, you know, where you couldn't see the windows. The windows were way up high, and you go, this is like a
The
dungeon.
dungeon. And it was called the Dunn Dental Building.
Dunn
The
yeah.
Dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. You know that. I mean, if you've been, you know what I'm talking about. So obviously, when you bring people there, You know, number one, they're going to probably open up their wallet. You know, when they can see what's, you know, that's my dental school, and you know, with all the equipment they're putting in, it's amazing, amazing. We're about 70% there, so we got a few more millions to go. So the door's always open. But
So if you could pick up that dental school
yeah,
and go to, and because that's where the meeting is going to be held, but go to a location
yeah,
that you, as a bucket list,
Yeah. A bucket list, vacation spot. Logistics aren't an issue. We're moving the dental school. We're having it there, but
Yeah.
moving it wherever you want it to be. Where are we going?
you're going to Destin if you're going with me. You're going. You know, the Alabama group started that, and I started going to them and went for many years. The Alabama, they met. Maybe 2 or 3 other states joined them. They met down in Destin. They had it at the Sandestin Hilton, which is one of the finest, as far as I'm concerned, in the nation. And you know, give kids a chance to, you know, take their grandkids, their kids there, play on the beach, do things. You know, with young folks, you got to give them something to do. And you know, unfortunately, we're caught in that thing where you know, in Nashville and stuff. I mean, people are tired of going to Nashville. You know, we wanted to keep it between 3 or 4 cities and take it there and do things with the young people. But unfortunately, that was taken out of our hands. You know, they decided to have it in Nashville. But to me, you got to go to a place where it gets the young people there. And I'm partial. I've got a place in Destin, so I love Destin.
That's
And I go to their dental meeting. They have UT has a little dental meeting there every year. You know, and it's usually from 8 to 12, and then you're on the rest of the day. So I love places like that. And on you know, being on the board at UT, I've got to go to a lot of nice places. I mean, you know, we've been everywhere from Mackinac Island. We went to Portland. You know, just a lot of different locations. But again, you know, the part that brings them there is the golf. Me, I'm a beach. I'm a Caribbean type guy. I'm a beach. I'm gonna be on the beach at 12 and that type of thing. So I like having meetings on the coast.
That's great. I grew up. My mom planned medical CE meetings, and we grew up going to the Sandestin Hilton.
Did you really?
And we'd go every year for this medical meeting, and it's like those core memories. You know, it feels like home.
Yeah. Do you want to know something? This is funny. I don't know if I'll, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. So we had one year. I looked at this thing and I thought I didn't have a condo, but I wanted to go and ride off the trip to the Hilton. So I see this thing, fun and learn, something like that, and I said, perfect. Classes in the morning, go to the pool in the afternoon. So I get a call from one of my dear friends, my brother Danny Weiss. Fred, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? And he said, I've got your application. I said, Danny, don't tell me you're putting this on. And he said, that's my meeting. Did you ever know that? Fun and learn. And it was Danny.
That was his meeting.
And he invited CPAs, all these things, and had different rooms with different screens. That's how good he was. He was thinking ahead. And I mean, from CPAs in one room to us, to medical doctors, and did them all at the Hilton. I don't know how long that lasted. It lasted for a few years because I was embarrassed. He never charged me. And I said, oh. And got to get my CE in, and you go in the room and you go, there's a big screen with recording. There's a lady in the back. You got any questions? And no, so you want to stay for the meeting, or well, yeah, I came from, okay, no problem. So she ran the screen, and then all of a sudden there was several people came in, but it was fun. It was fun. It was my buddy Danny Weiss. I had no idea.
That's too good.
That is great. Then I guess, do you have, if we're having a tagline for your conference, and it doesn't have to be, it can be a tagline for the conference, or it can be a life motto you live by.
Mm-hmm.
What's the motto for your conference?
Oh, wow. That's, gosh dog. Let me think about that. That's yeah, okay.
Yeah, motto. Like, what is the thing you're going to put on the billboard that's going to say, persevere, work hard, play hard, or
That type of thing, huh? Me being a fun guy, it would have to be something like, learn and have fun at the same time, or have fun learning, or something like that, with that kind of a catchy motto. And
Learning
but
fun. We're taking
learning
that from
fun.
Danny Weiss.
there
we're
you
taking it
go.
from Danny Weiss. Exactly. That's the way I live. Yeah.
That's good.
That's great.
Yep. Okay, keynote speaker.
Yeah.
So a keynote speaker could be anybody from Dr. Bernstein had Simon Sinek,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
The Power of Why. I don't remember who else he had mentioned that might be in there, but somebody you want to hear from that's going to either really usually motivation,
Yeah.
alive or dead, or somebody you looked up to or read books.
Well, the one that I always did, and of course I don't even know if he's still doing it anymore, but we used to have him at the dental congress all the time, was Gordon Christensen. And I listened to this guy, and I liked him. Of course, like I said, I don't even know if he's lectured anymore, but we've had him several times. And I like a guy that takes, that tells it like it is. I've used this, and this, but this one's the best. And supposedly he wasn't paid for any of that. And so I got a lot of good hints from him. I'm not sure now because, again, I don't have my hands on all that, getting speakers and all. Mickey got us a couple of really, really great guys. I can't remember their names. You know, implants and also doing ceramic. And again, he had them at his meeting, and they came in and spent an extra day here. But just something like that. But if you were asking me one that's impressive, another one is a guy that always drew a lot of people, and there was a guy named Jim Pride. He died. Jim Pride, Stanley Malamed, talking about emergency medicine. Just something like that. Again, now having the school, I like hands-on courses, and hopefully it will evolve to that. We do a lot more hands-on, whether it be implant, whether it be Les Binkley talking about laser, something like that. But hands-on, I think the younger people, I'm not trying to relate to them, but they do like more hands-on type thing, because most of them can look at a computer and learn, whatever. But hands-on, I think, is going to be the future, especially in dental school here.
We were just hands on in third and fourth year. I mean, we waxed some.
Yeah.
But after seeing the awesome facility with all the mannequins and
God.
everything, did you work mostly hands on?
It was third and fourth year clinicals, but we had the DentSim lab.
Yeah, the DentSim, yeah.
So we had that, and then we had mannequins that were nothing like what they've got now, but mannequins that we could work on that tried to simulate what it would be like to work on a patient. And we started doing that maybe our second year.
Yeah, now with the mannequins, if you're tilted the wrong way, if you're headed, everything, it will tell you. I mean, and so, again, being a dentist, your back is your number one priority. And obviously with the DentSim, is when I did it, I didn't do it in school, we didn't have them, but obviously it teaches you the right way to do things. And if you don't do it that way, it's going to tell you, Doc, back up, do this or whatever. And but now the new ones they're getting, I have no idea. I guess the only thing they can't do, they can't drill and fill it for you, okay? But it's a good thing. And then, by the way, I think we're going to be only one of 3 schools that have got those things. So
Really?
and also the robotic, Hank McKay donated a robotic whatever thing, whether it's a big computer or whatever, to do implants.
Oh.
And that may be one of 2 in the nation. And they're using it now in oral surgery, robotic implants.
To place implants?
Yes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like they do in surgeries with the
The
robotic
yes.
arms
Yeah,
for.
yeah, yeah. Hank McKay knows more than I do, but it is in oral surgery now. Yeah, that's amazing.
It is.
So
So you had mentioned something about Invisalign,
yeah,
and you got into that. So you've seen a lot of with technology over
Yes.
the years.
yeah,
You've seen so much growth from not wearing gloves to wearing gloves. That's the first technology is gloves.
that's yeah.
How has it changed? And what were your favorite? What are some of your favorite things that you've done and learned and were so excited for when it first came out?
Well, I'll tell you again, going back a little bit. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Invisalign because in the state meeting that I had, Invisalign was being taught, but not in dental schools. Okay, and so I called my good friend Danny Wise, and I said, I know how to handle this. And I said, Danny, can you get us in with Invisalign? And he said, well, sure. I know the guy that does this. And so let me pull some strings here. So we were the first ones to teach Invisalign in a dental school. We had it in my meeting here at the Peabody. So I didn't know it was going to cause such an uproar. But you know how orthodontists are. They're very protective of their turf. The only problem is I had an orthodontist that was doing my program, so I didn't have any problem. But I actually had, and I will tell you this to be honest with you, at the time I thought, oh my God, what have I done? And they taught both courses, Invisalign 1 and Invisalign 2. And they had never taught it at a dental school, at a meeting for a dental school, which was the Slagle meeting, when I was chairman for the Slagle meeting. So I talked at that time, excuse me, no, that was a state meeting. I'm sorry, take it all back. That was a state meeting. So Danny got them for me and all that, and we usually didn't make a lot of money in state meetings, by the time you get through paying bills and all that. But in that particular course, we made more than any other course that's ever been made. But the uproar started where I had the head of the orthodontic department call me and said that he didn't appreciate what I was doing, this and that, and that he was going to tell his group of people not to come to the meeting. And I said, you're welcome to. It's not for y'all anyway. It's really for the general dentist. But if you don't want to come, you're welcome. You don't have to come. And several of them didn't like that and didn't come, which was okay with me because we made money and, I wasn't in it to please everybody all at one time, and so, but it was great. And it was Danny that got me started with Invisalign. And I say that when I said the dental school, that was not a dental school. It was the first time being taught at whatever kind of meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't dental school. I'm sorry. I got it all screwed up.
And then you did some Invisalign?
No, I didn't do Invisalign.
You didn't do it?
And that's a personal type thing because of Danny.
Right.
I just, and now, of course, that's the only thing I wish I could have done years and years ago. Jason in my office started doing some clear liners. And I'm going to tell you something, what he got out, there's some pictures that I would show you that have a gap in the front, diastema that much, and they closed them. So there's, there obviously is a future, done the right way and all that, and I think Invisalign is the same way. And so it's unbelievable. So, but I said, ortho, no, that's my buddy, and I couldn't do it. And I actually sent him everybody. And everybody was pleased with Danny. Nobody ever came back saying, "Oh, he's horrible."
No, he's great.
So, and now Brenton's the same way. Mm-hmm. He's a good guy.
Dr. Bernstein came in,
Yeah.
and he started with the cosmetic dentistry things and the fee-for-service practice, and he gets all involved in these particular dental aspects. Did you find yourself more, I guess there's just different ways of doing things. He said he would never extract a tooth that could be saved, but that he thought could be saved. And the person would say, I don't want to save my tooth, though. And he's like, well, I think it can be saved. I'm not going to do it, but I'll send you.
Yeah.
You can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an option.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm just not going to do it. So he ran his practice the way he wanted to, which is what's one of the beautiful things about dentistry that I see is that you can do anything you want.
Anything you want. Absolutely.
And so when you started, did you start doing a little bit of everything and then you just have narrowed it down to like your...
Absolutely, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I commend him because there's a lot of times, I didn't like the fact that people were extracting first molars, and then it got to be where it was kind of like a wave, a bunch of people taking first molars out and all that, and I thought, I don't know if I want to do that, but and now most people have gotten away, from that. I don't know. But I felt the same way sometimes, and then sometimes they ask you to do something that it's not possible. Like a lot of times now we're getting referrals from pedo groups. There's only 2 or 3 people in Memphis doing root canals for TennCare, and I'm one of them. And so I'm picking my cases, and if I see a case, and the other day I had one. It was a 10-year-old kid that came in and wanted to do a root canal on a molar tooth, and I said, so I've changed.
Right.
I really have changed, just adapted, because again, I'm not going to do a root canal on a 10-year-old, and then TennCare doesn't pay for a crown until they're 16, so it's going to break.
Right.
And so you just adapt. But there's some things I feel like Nikki, like I didn't want to do it, so I just said I'm not going to do that. You need to go somewhere else. And so I commend him. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's wonderful.
There are just so many different ways of doing things. Some people don't really, I guess, love dentistry. It's just their way of getting into business.
Yeah.
And some people love dentistry, but they're not as good on the business side.
No, they're not. Yeah,
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So I just find it fascinating about how many different ways you can do things.
And I actually tell students that because I've spoken many times to dental classes. And one of the things that you're going to find with me is the first thing when I get there, I ask the instructor, if you or an instructor, whatever, leave the room. Because I'm here to talk to the students. I'm not here to talk to you all because I know I'm going to be, whatever I say, they're not going to like. And, I like that. I like to tell students, look, learn what you learn from school, take it, and then when you get out, you can go different ways. Take CE, do this and that. The way you do root canals now are not going to be the way you're going to do them in private practice. I said, for example, to give you back when we were in school, we had to have 3 negative cultures on the tooth. So we had to get a patient in to put a paper point to get a negative culture so we could fill it before, that type thing. So I said, so you change, and that's what I tell them. Take what you learned in school. You got to learn to do it a certain way. But then you can take CE, go wherever. Go to the beach, and if somebody's teaching something about endo, go to the beach, enjoy the beach, and then learn about endo. And so that's what I tell students, and I make no bones about it. I don't want instructors listening to me because they're going to get mad. It's funny because at this meeting I just had somebody that I actually put on to go to UT. He called me, and so he was aggravated, and this guy was asking me. He says, it's aggravating because they want a general practitioner to teach, but yet I don't do it that way. And I said, Mike, just remember what I tell you. They got to learn to do it a certain way. You can't teach every way. You do it different than me. I do it different, and it's okay as long as we get to the same place and the tooth is fine. But I said in school they can't teach all those methods, and so you got to adapt. You work in school, and that's what you got to adapt. And if you can't, then you don't need to be at school because they're going to want you to teach it a certain way. They're not going to let every instructor come in there, tell them, oh, no, let's do it this way. I do it this way in Arkansas. And it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, my dad told me. So I went to dental school, and I was going to go in with my dad, be a general dentist, and
sure,
go in with him
sure.
until I figured out that I needed to be working on children.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Which is a good choice.
it was a great choice for me,
Yeah.
because general dentistry would have not been my thing.
Yeah.
But that's what he would always tell me before I decided to specialize. I said, man, this is hard. And he'd say, just get out, just do well, get out of school,
Yeah.
and then I'll teach you everything you need to know,
There you go. There you
just like to what you're
go.
saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he said,
Good
learn the
pearl.
basics, get this, and then I'll teach you.
Yeah. Good pearl. Yeah. Absolutely. And he's one of the best. He's one of the best. They loved him in school, and yeah.
That's sweet. So I'm going to pivot to mentors then, because did you have any? Of course, your dad is a mentor
Sure,
of
absolutely,
yours,
yeah.
and but who else did you see as a mentor? I'm guessing I could guess a couple.
You can probably guess a couple. Yeah.
So how did you, when you got out of school and you had this one way to do something, and then you get out and you find there's a million ways? Larry Dermois taught me in pediatric residency, and he'd say there's more than one way to Collierville. So you get out and there's a million ways. How did you find people to help you navigate that? Your mentors that you found?
You know, it's tough. By the way, Larry was a classmate of mine.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, he was. Larry was in my class. You know, it's tough, and again, it just all depends what you know. There's some people that don't need to be, you know, they just need to be by themselves. Okay, if you're a dentist, you gotta be a social guy. You gotta be, you know, not being a social climber, but again, you got to expand. You know, it's if you want your name to be known, you gotta go to the Kiwanis or whatever and meet people. And so, you know, as far as mentors, you know who they are. I mean, obviously, as far as, you know, in dentistry, it's always my brother, Danny Weiss. You know, I learned a lot from him, and just the way he was, how good he was with people, and how I wanted to be like that. And the fact he had 6 or 8 chairs, and I only had 1 chair or 2 chairs. And he just managed to see them all, always smiled, and you know, so and obviously the other one was my dad. You know, it never. I always said, you know, if it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't be where I am. So those are my two. And as far as anything else, I think I put those two at the top, and I've had lots of others. But so if you're before the end, I want to tell a little story, and then I'll leave you with that before we end, because
Okay.
it was a great story.
I will.
We'll
I will.
preface
I'll
it,
come
and
back to you
Yeah.
on that.
You
Okay. Career fair for young dentists, or what would you tell yourself at certain, I don't know if it's ages or stages of 20s, 30s, or early practice life, middle practice life?
Yeah.
You know, you've already stated that you would tell yourself, well, gosh, I had a cancellation. This is actually great. I'm just going to take it easy for a minute. Whereas before,
Absolutely.
you may be like
Yeah.
all stressed and worried.
Yep. Yep.
So you got out of school in your 20s, and looking back on that, what would you tell yourself? What advice would you give yourself?
I do it the same way. You know, it's just you progress with time, and you know, I think the main thing is the bill situation. You don't have as many bills, and you can take that time off, and so I think that's, you know, the money a lot of times it's money driven when you're young. You know, you've got to make money. You got to pay the bills. You got to pay the equipment. And then as we get older and all the equipment is paid for, the office may be paid for, then you don't let that worry you. But I think the first few years is probably the money that it takes to run an office. I've been fortunate in that I'm not a businessman. I'm a dentist. And I've got people, I've got financial advisor, I've got CPAs that do my payroll. I've got all these different people helping me because that's what they do. You know, I can't sit there and do payroll every week. Or I could, but I'm not smart enough to do that. But, you know, I just surrounded myself with good people to help me run the practice. And it became easier. And I tell students that all the time. I said, you know, we got in practice management, we got a 6-month course, an hour a week for 6 months, okay? What are you going to learn in 6 months? You know, in investing and, you know, doing payroll, all that stuff. So I said, don't try to do it. Get you somebody to help you and run your practice, and you're going to be more profitable, even though in the beginning you're going to think, oh, my God, you know, payroll is costing me this, and it'll all wash out at the end because you're going to spend less time doing paperwork and insurance and all this, and just get some help and do dentistry, and then you'll be more profitable. So, yeah.
Nowadays at the schools, it's like you have all these sponsors coming in,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, come to our firm for your financial
Yeah.
advising and yada yada."
Yeah.
How did you find those good people? Where did they come from for you?
Most of them were really good friends of mine. You know, especially my financial advisor, my CPA. There were people I knew, and then I had a really good friend that worked with me on long-term planning with my retirement plans and all that. That was a family friend. So, you know, that's why I got them. I don't know if I went out of the way to get somebody or if it's mainly referrals, and I did, and it's turned out great. You know, even again, you know, for my retirement, you know, I'm fine, and so I couldn't have done that what they did, you know, and I didn't keep up with my stocks every day looking at them and all that. That's just, you know, I just waited until I got my report at the end of 6 months, and hey, I did great, or bad, whatever way it went. You know, I've done both ways. But, and then, you know, find out at the end that probably the best thing I ever did was real estate. You know, getting some real estate, you know, again, for me, not trying to own real estate. And I've got a place where I'm going to this afternoon, Pickwick. I've got Destin. I've got my office. I've got my home. So that to me is good investment. So
It's excellent. Was there ever a time, you know, you get into your 30s and probably more like late 40s, and I know that like Dr. Bernstein, he said after about 20 years he got bored, and he got a little bored, and then he started into real estate,
yeah.
and then he said he found cosmetic dentistry, and then he got the fire again,
Yeah.
and it was a short time, and careers go up and down, and you know, highs and lows or whatever. Did you ever find yourself like, do I want to keep doing this, or did you always just go to work happy and kept yourself so busy with other things that it wasn't the end all, your practice?
No, I've never been burned out. I love what I do, and you know, love going to work every day. I mean, it just again this last spell that we had with the weather, a week at home, that taught me enough where I don't want to do this for a living. I want to keep working. You know, again, we get older, and we're not going to do, you know, impact a third molar sideways, that type of stuff. But you get comfortable in what you do, and you know, my prophies, my meeting my people, doing, you know, that type thing. I love it. I love it. We see a lot of people, and so it's just every day is a new experience, you know. So I love it. I still do.
That's great. Then I guess we can go kind of what does talking about being home for a week, not being what you want to do, what does your future look like in dentistry?
Well, you know, again, the retirement thing, I have talked to people, but I'm not ready to do it. It's just, I think, like we talked about. I was telling you, I said I don't know if I can really work for somebody and, transition off of that. I've been used to being my own boss, and I'm just not sure I like that. I like to retire on top, which is where I am, and I don't want somebody else that just bought my price. Well, no, wait a minute, I'm paying you, and you work for me, and you do. So I want to leave at the stage where I'm going to leave it, and so whether or not that's feasible nowadays, I don't know, but that's really what I want to do, and then take up something else. I don't know. I can't play racquetball, which is I wish I could, but we'll figure something out. Maybe even pickleball, but don't tell people that.
I'm gonna get you a hat, pickleball hat.
But no. It's so it's just hard. But it taught me enough where what am I doing here all day long? I don't have anything to do. And so I went and worked out and did stuff like that. But it's not dentistry. It's not meeting people
and no timeline on it either. It's just you still love what you do.
I love what I do. Yeah. People ask me that almost every day. When are you going to retire? And I'm going, I don't know.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, it's fun.
I had a partner, Dr. Mark, who had since moved off when we were in Bartlett together with Dr. Jeff.
Yeah.
And I remember he would always be like, 20 more years. 20 more years. I'm like, 20 more years? He's like, then I can retire, and then I'm like, I love going, I love work.
Yeah, a lot of
There's highs and lows, but
we were the number one profession in suicides, and I never understood. I really never understood that. I don't know, and I still don't know. I can't answer the question, because to me, it's just been a great profession. I look forward to going every day and meeting people and all that. Very few professions give you the chance to do that, and so, again, I don't know, I'm not in their shoes, but I love what I do.
do you think that, we had talked about that with Dr. Bernstein also, about the stress.
Yeah.
And I had asked him if he thought it was the business and or the dentist personality type,
Yeah.
a little bit more,
Yeah.
uptight. And I mean, you've dealt with a number of dentists.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a lot of personality. I'll tell you a real short story about a classmate of mine that actually retired real early. And he was on the board at the University of Tennessee. And he practiced in Mississippi, Belzoni, or one of those small towns. And he comes in about 5, 6, 7 years after he got out of school, became an orthodontist, and he actually put it the best I've ever heard. He says, Fred, I'm a perfectionist. I've been a perfectionist all my life. I can't deal with this. He said, if there's a tooth that is not in line or it just doesn't meet my criteria, and it's killing me. I said, oh. And that's really what he was going to do. I mean, he just said, I can't. I'm a perfectionist. Every tooth has got to be perfect. And I said, Hugh, you deal with imperfect human beings. How can you make that decision? You do the best you can, and that's really all you can do, but being perfect? And he said, Fred, you're not a perfectionist. You don't understand. And he retired and actually bought a cattle farm, and that's what he did. But he retired young. But he was a little bit older, too, when he went to dental school. He was a little bit older and kind of more mature, and he didn't mix well with the class because he was older. And so there you go. I mean, he was a perfectionist. He just couldn't handle it.
I found there are a lot of people in the dental class that were that way.
Yeah.
Type A personalities
Yeah.
are drawn to.
Yeah. I mean, that's his nature. And so it was all personality.
Do you want to share your story with us?
I'd love to.
Please.
So, you're not going to hear another one like this.
Uh-oh.
I have told this to, and I'm going to clean it up a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. But I have told this to including in the TDA when I was giving my speech, and so here's having it really rough. Okay, so we've got we're a week, 2 weeks from graduation, and so we had some money in the class. Certain individual apparently didn't like it. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but he's a pedodonist. So we said, if y'all say anything, I'll shoot you. So we decided to, we had $500-600, which was a hell of a lot of money back then. But we decided to throw a party. Well, it was not the party that, it was a little wild. It got a little wild, a little drinking and all this. And somebody came in, put his hand through the door, and we broke some windows. And anyway, we did it. Spent all the money because nobody wanted to leave money for UT at that time. And so we did some damage to this little place. It was called Techno Lane, which was right by UT. So on Monday morning, not Monday morning, Monday afternoon, we had gotten several classmates that did not attend the party because of their religion and whatever, and that was fine. They wrote a letter to the dean. So now the dean happened to be a good friend of mine, and I say that because I was kind of like the dean's pet, because anyway, anytime he had needed anything, he knew where he could get it. So there were 7 of us that were in charge of putting the party together. So we get a note to come to the dean's office at 5 o'clock. So I said, I smell a rat. This is not going to be good. So he lines us up and he says, come on in, gentlemen. And he says, y'all had a pretty good party the other night, didn't you? And Dean Wells, I can explain. And he said, no, shut up. I'm talking. I said, oh, shit. So he says, yeah, here's a little damage to the building. And is that really becoming a dentist? And you're a couple of weeks from graduation. And again, I was kind of like, ooh. So he said, I've decided I'm going to take I'm going to take lead role in this, and I'm going to kick all 7 of you out of my dental school. Of course, I said, the first thing I went, oh my God, have we gotten to this? And so, everybody started tearing up. Dean Wells, we're 2 weeks ago. I know where you are. And he said, and the conduct that you all displayed there is not the conduct of a dentist. So you're out. So now I'm thinking, okay, I'm crying. I'm thinking, how am I going to tell my family this? And I've been kicked out of dental school in the last week of school. So I said, oh my God. So he says, y'all can get out of my office. So as we were leaving, the last guy leaving, and he said, shut the door. And he said, no, come on back in. And he said, and I will quote this, he says, the next time you sons of bitches do what you did and then you don't invite your dental dean, I will kick you out of my dental school. I swear to you, that's exactly. So I told the story, I didn't use the word SOB, but he said, I will kick you out. He was the student's dean, and I loved him because he went to our parties. He did things with us. And so, but boy, I tell you, man, that will stop the heart in a hurry. And so, anyway, that was the end of that. But I've told that story many times that I was about that close to being kicked out of dental school. Had it been another dean, I'd have been out of dental school.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
There you go. So that's the end of it.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Anything you want to, for anybody that's listening, is there any place they can donate to the dental school? Is it a website or anything? Just go.
Oh, yeah. Dental school's got a website, and it's a UT. I'm not sure. I don't know the website, but if you go to the UT Dental School, it'll have a place in there. And I encourage everybody because, again, it's our dental school. It's our pride, and we've got to invest in it. And obviously the state gave us a lot of money, but it's a lot of money that we have to raise to make it all possible. And just being part of the greatest dental school in the nation, and whatever, walk through the dental school, and it will change your mind. It's a great dental school, and so I gosh dog, if you can help us out, I bought an operatory, so I don't know, I didn't want to name after me, so I named it after my parents. But you have a chance to do that. And then the other thing, being an ambassador for UT, you know, your meetings, you're and all that, tell them you're a UT grad and be proud of it because it really is truly an honor to be part of the dental school.
Well, it was an honor for me
No.
that you were here, honestly.
It was great.
Thank you. I hope I didn't bore you.
Thank
with
you
all
so
the
much
stories.
for your time. No, I
You're
think it was
welcome.
just fabulous.
You're welcome. Glad to do it. Thank you.